Hello everyone, my name is Akira. I'm a pianist, piano teacher, and a translator who lived in 3 different countries. On my channel, I'm posting videos of my performances and topics related to and not related to music, whatever I find interesting. So please subscribe and hit the bell button next to it so you won't miss my future videos. And don't forget to hit the like button so YouTube will know I'm putting out good contents. So I'll give you some time to do that right now.
Did you subscribe yet?
My video on how to practice Hanon became very popular over the last few months, and a lot of people have asked, what books do you use before Hanon? In this video, I'm going to introduce the books I use for technical training before Hanon, and I'm also going to talk about what to focus on some of the exercises so you can incorporate those in your own practice or teaching. So let's begin. I know there are teachers who give Hanon to 3-year-olds and tell them to go practice 5 hours every day. Although it may work very well in some parts of the world, that hasn't worked very well for me. So instead, I have certain routine I follow so that my students can build up their skill and be ready to start playing Hanon. The very first technique book I use is this. Yes, a piece of paper. But it's not just a piece of paper. It's a piece of paper that has musical alphabets and pentascale exercise. As of now, we give free trial lessons to all the new students, and this is a piece of paper I use in a trial lesson. In these trial lessons, I go over all the basics like how to sit at the piano, keyboard topology, and how to play the keys. These are what I consider as a key to success in piano studies, and I teach that in the very first lesson, and that's free. No wonder musicians struggle to make living. Anyway, if you haven't seen these videos, please go ahead and check them out. After the student successfully performs the 5-finger exercise on this paper, then I start them on the method book. And I'll talk about these method books I use for my lessons in a separate video, but I'm going to focus on the technique books today. After 6 months to 1 year, when they finish the first set of the method books, that's when I start them on this technique book. And that book is this one. It's called Dozen a Day. I use this series Preparatory book, Book 1 and Book 2, and usually move on to the scale book that I mentioned in this video. And after that, it's the famous
Hanon.
This is called a dozen a day, and these exercises are divided into groups, each of which has 12 exercises. I don't assign 12 exercises at the same time. I think it's much better to master each exercise perfectly before moving on to the next ones. So the most I assign is 3 exercises, but usually 2, or even 1, depending on how complicated the exercise is. I like using this book because each exercise is very short, so you can focus on one certain technique at a time. And of course, each exercise comes with these funky stick figures. The first thing I tell my students when they first start on these technique books is to practice these at the beginning of practice session. The reason for that is these can be a very good warm-up for the rest of the repertoires they're practicing. And also, technique training can be boring, so if they don't do it in the beginning, I don't expect anybody to do it at the end of the practice session. In order to pass these exercises, my students have to perform these without collapsing their fingers in one try. The reason for that is even if they could fix their finger shape in the second try, the first try is what really shows me how they've been practicing. So again, I tell my students, you have one job in this book, to keep your fingers curved and only use a fingertip. That's actually 2 jobs. So let's take a look at the first exercises. Number 1 and number 2 goes as a set. As I said earlier, by the time I introduce this book to my students, they're on the second set of the method books. And one of the first things that happens in the second level is introduction of the 8th note. So these exercises are perfect to prepare them for that. For these or any other exercises that involves a lot of 8th notes, I tell my students to play with a metronome at 80 BPM. You can adjust the target tempo depending on the student's ability, but 80 is usually the hot spot where it's a little difficult to do, but it's not impossible. So the first one is pretty straightforward. It's all quarter note, you just match the metronome, don't collapse your fingers, that's all. This is pretty simple, but make sure your 1st and 5th fingers are also not collapsing. Usually, the second exercises gives my students a lot of problems because this is the first time they're playing anything faster than quarter note. So first, they're gonna have to learn the concept of subdividing the beats and count like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. And play at that speed like this. If the student has problem with that, then I immediately separate the hands. And if they're having trouble matching the metronome, then I ask them to play only the downbeats like this. And after playing like that a few times, then I'll tell them to fill in the rest. Again, this is the first time the student is playing eighth notes, so it's going to take a lot of trial and errors, but you have to be very patient with them. Eventually, everybody will get it. Let's take a look at number 4. In this exercise, you will play single note first, 2 notes second, and then triads, like this. The key takeaway from this is when you play multiple notes, you're going to have multiple good finger shapes. And when you play 3 notes at the same time, because you're curving in all the fingers, you're going to feel like you're grabbing something. So I call this grabbing chords. I tell my students to grab the chords, not smash onto them. Number 5 is another eighth note exercise. This time, you may have a little bit of difficulty, but it shouldn't take as long as it took for the number 2 exercise. And that's because you've already played eighth note successfully. And at the end of this exercise, you're going to have to play an octave. And this is a very good opportunity to explain to your students what octave is, and also how to play an octave by opening your hands. A lot of students play C and G in their right hand and C and F in their left hand because they're so used to playing only the keys that can be covered by 5 fingers. So now's a good time to reveal them that the notes can jump around. When you play an octave, you can open up your hand a little bit and stretch out, but never ever collapse your fingers. So you're going to still maintain the arch of your hand and use the fingertip to play. You should never ever stretch out your finger like this, because all sorts of bad things can happen. Number 7 introduces a cross hand technique. When you cross over, you should use left hand 2 instead of 1 or any other fingers, because that's the closest long finger to this key. This is how much you have to move your hand to play the C with number 2, but this is how much you have to move to play with 5. So you can see how you can save the distance by using second finger. Number 1 is the closest finger to the key, but it'll be awkward because it's a short finger. In the worst case scenario, you can push down the other hand, like this. Group 2 number 3 exercise moves your hand for an octave and go up and down like this. When you have to move your hands, don't waste any time, especially when you have staccato. As soon as you play the key, start moving and arrive at your destination as early as possible so you have time to adjust. And always touch the right keys before you play. Number 6 is grace note exercise. In order for successful grace note playing, your fingers has to maintain the curved shape and your wrist and everything has to be relaxed so you can consistently play like this. if there's any tension in your wrist or palm, then that can restrict your finger movement. If your finger collapses, forget about it. In Group 3, number 3 exercise, you will have to play the chords in staccato using both hands, but the first line is quarter notes and second line is eighth notes. This builds up further on those eighth note exercises that you had in previous group. And the key to master this exercise is to play the multiple keys only with your fingers and not with your wrist. Just like other eighth note exercises, I recommend the tempo of 80. Key to master this exercise is to play the staccato by plucking the key like this, by curving in your fingers. If you use right hand and left hand like a fork, and then move the whole arm up and down like this, you might be able to survive this exercise, but it's going to be extremely difficult. And it's not going to give you a good technique in the future either. So try to play the first line also by not moving your hands or wrist up and down, but by plucking the keys like this. And if you can play this line like this, then you're going to be ready to do it twice faster here. Group 4, number 8 is a chromatic exercise. You use number 1 and 3 like you play chromatic scale, and then go up and down between C, C sharp, D, D flat. Again, your fingers curved and only fingertip touching the key, and then when you do it, it literally looks like two fingers are walking on the keys. We're going to skip ahead to Group 5, number 1. Group 5 starts with penner scale and broken chord exercises that uses C, D, E, F, G measures. And this is a great opportunity to introduce students how to play the black keys. Number 1 goes like this. All the scales except for C and G requires you to use some of the black keys. When you play the black keys, the same rules apply. You have to keep your finger curved, and then you're going to have to use the tip of your finger. But because most of the students start with using white keys only, their hands are used to hang around in this big, wide open area. But in order to play the black key properly, you can't stay here, otherwise your curved finger won't reach the black key. So you will have to push your hand forward like this, so that your long fingers can comfortably play the black key. It's going to be the same for any finger. If you stay in this big open area, then you won't be able to play the black key, so you're going to have to go forward. And if that requires your other fingers to play between the black keys, go for it. There's nothing that prohibits that. You're allowed to play anywhere on the white keys, including all the way from here to here. So again, when you have to play black keys, you're going to have to move your hand position to accommodate the black keys without collapsing your fingers. Even if it means that you're going to have to play in between the black keys, or your hand has to go up a little higher? Many of my viewers have been asking me how to play the black keys, and I hope this answers a little bit of that question. Like I said earlier, I can go on and on about these exercises forever, but these are the points and tips that I think are especially important in this preparatory book. In the next level, book 1, there are exercises that covers techniques that are more similar to the ones we actually see in actual music. So if enough of my viewers are interested in, I will make another video like this. So please let me know in the comment. And as always, if you learned something from this video, please hit the like button so YouTube will know that I'm still putting out good content and recommends it to other people too. Alright, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.